Four Midwest Guys presents...
At the end of the Clone Wars, after witnessing Order 66, the elite, enhanced, undefeated Clone Force Unit 99 was accused of treason by Admiral Tarkin, a crime for which they did not commit. Now hunted by the Empire, they survive as soldiers of fortune. If you have a problem, and no one else can help, and you can find them, then maybe you can hire the Bad Batch.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Four Midwest Guys Presents. Well, actually, welcome to the brand new show, Four Midwest Guys Presents The Bad Batch Report. I am your host, B. Willie, and with me is my daughter, Gabriella.
Hi.
Hello, Gabby. How are you today?
Tired.
You're tired? Okay. Brian still suffering the effects of the old shot in the arm there from COVID, so he won't be able to join us today on this premiere show, but he hopefully will be with us on future episodes going forward. So obviously this is the Bad Batch Report. We'll be covering all the Bad Batch episodes, definitely from season 1, and hopefully there'll be a season 2 as well. So what today we'll be covering will be a double dose, as we had the premiere on May the 4th, and then last Friday they gave us episode 2 cut and run. So we'll be doing episode 1 Aftermath, the premiere episode or pilot, and then episode 2 cut and run as well, all in one giant Bad Batch episode. So we got a lot to do. Ready to get started, Gabby?
Sure.
All right, so right off the bat, we have that. I love the Clone Wars feel to this. I loved how the logo, the Clone Wars' logo, shows up in red, just like it did for the last few episodes of Clone Wars, just like almost if we're picking right up you're coming right out of season 7 of the Clone Wars. And then it burns through to the Bad Batch. It's all about telling you that there's a transition, but the Bad Batch logo, but it's all about transition here. What did you think about the whole transition logo? Did you like how it burned through to the Bad Batch there, Gabby?
Yeah, I was actually generally confused when it opened to the Clone Wars logo. I'm like, hold up, wait a minute.
What's going on?
Yeah.
This isn't Clone Wars. It's not supposed to be Clone Wars. And then they kept coming with they gave us the Tom Kane vocal for the Clone Wars. Planet Callus, blah blah blah. It was which was really nice to hear, because if you haven't heard, Tom Kane, the voice that does the intro to all the Clone Wars, does the that movie Real Voice, newsreel voice, had a stroke. We understand he may be having trouble even talking because of it. So just really pulls on the heartstrings to hear that one more time. And we here at Four Midwest Guys obviously wish Tom the best and a speedy recovery. Obviously, get well soon, sir. We would love to have you back and hear that voice one more time, sir. But we get to it's like a Clone Wars episode. It opens up as one. You see the battle going on, and suddenly they hit us with a surprise, and you hear the Stormtrooper go, Master Depa Billa Bendu. Again, that's Master Depa Billa Bendu. Which is, of course, if anybody knows their history, immediately I went like that. I'm like, oh, cool. It's that was Kanan's master from the Rebels. For those, spoiler alert, for those of you who watch Rebels, there's a character, Kanan, who's a Jedi, and he survives Order 66, and his master was Master Depa Billa Bendu. I'm sure I'm horrible with some of these names. But again, her Padawan, who was a commander, all the Jedi were generals, it seemed like, and then all their Padawans were commanders. And she, they're like, "Where's your commander at?" And then he shows up. Who is it? But it is Padawan version of Kanan, whose original name was Caleb Doom. So he shows up, and I loved all of this. Did you pick up on the fact that was Freddie Prinze Jr.'s voice that it was the same one that they were messing with his voice to try to. It kept going high and low, like his voice was cracking.
Yeah, I picked up on it after about a minute or so.
Yeah.
And I was like, hold up, wait a second.
Yeah.
Is that
Kanan?
Yeah.
Yeah. / Caleb. But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I just loved the voice. I liked how he looked. Even it was Caleb Doom. It was just a younger Kanan, a younger version. It was they kept I liked how they bring in all these things, and like how he brings Clone Force 99 to him, and they're like, oh, these guys are special. And we get this nice little fight scene with Clone Force 99 doing what they do best, which is just tear through battle droids. I love the tank scene. Did you like the tank scene there, Gabby, where they put the tanks together and how he pushed one off? Remember that? Yeah, that was pretty badass. Actually, I thought that was kind of neat.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, how Crosshair shot it's like he connected them, and then he pushed one and all three went off. It was just, kind of special force.
Ripple effect?
Yeah, it was cool. Dominoes falling, right? So I just thought it was a neat way, and it was cool to see see what these guys are. That remind you just how special these guys are. They each have their own special abilities. That Wrecker is the strength. Hunter has these special abilities that he can track with or feel. Especially electromagnetic forces, so he can feel people. He can feel robots and stuff that are nearby, or battle droids. Even it's almost like having the Force without having the Force, in a way. Then you have Tech, who's he's the know-it-all, the guy who's always researching, and then you have Echo, who's going to be a hacker as this goes forward. We'll talk a little bit more about Echo as we go forward, because I have some issues with that so far. But anyway, so I digress back to then obviously what happens is they release Clone Force 99 to continue their battle forward. Caleb Doom / Kanan goes. Decides he's going to go with Clone Force 99 and do some havoc with those guys. And as he's leaving, of course, we hear, the transmission, and it's execute Order 66. And I just made the Emperor sound Aussie. Sorry. But anyway, so execute Order 66 comes through. They start shooting at his master, and sure enough, the last words that he hears his master say is "Run, Caleb," or "Run, Caleb, run." And of course, if you go back to Rebels, spoiler alert, there's a line in there where a certain bad guy asks Kanan, "What's the last word your master said to you?" And he says under his breath, "Run." So they're keeping the continuity there.
Wait, who said that?
Kanan did to the Inquisitor when he was being tortured by the Inquisitor on the starship.
The Grand Inquisitor?
Yes.
Okay.
He's like, "I wonder what your master's last words were to you." And he goes, "Run," under his breath. He's like reliving the moment. And she obviously gets killed, and you hear her scream, and she's being, blasted to death. I know that some people had some issues. Apparently it says it differs from the Kanan, the Last Padawan comic, Order 66 story, which I don't know. I never read it. I gotta be honest with you. I never got around to reading it, so I can't do a comparison, so I'm not really going to try, but I will say I like this version. Because now you've got... It opens up all kinds of questions, too. I mean, can you imagine what would have happened if Order 66 hadn't happened at that very moment? You could have had Kanan running around with Clone Force 99 the whole time, and he could have,
What if it happened a second later?
Well, even if, say a minute later, and he's so far gone, maybe he feels his master being killed, obviously, but he wouldn't have seen it or heard her, right?
Yeah.
That might have changed something.
Or would have known it was a clone.
Right. And then you throw in we did finally get the question answered. A lot of people had going into this story was, what would happen to Bad Batch, the Bad Batch, because of Order 66? We find out that most of them are immune, that they're all immune because of their... mutations, right, and their special abilities, except for Crosshair. Spoiler alert, by the way. All this is spoiler alert, by the way. I couldn't get my spoiler alert thing to work, but this is all spoiler alert. Of course, you should know that by now. But yeah, so what if, Kanan had gone off with the Bad Batch? Would the Bad Batch have protected him? Especially if, what if, and you throw another what if on top of that, what if Crosshair was, was immune to Order 66? Turns out he wasn't, but if he was, would he have protected Kanan, and would they have started the rebellion right there? There's all kinds of what if questions. They're cool things that ran through my mind as I'm watching all this play out, because we see Hunter try to track him down and protect him, and unfortunately you got Crosshair, who the Order 66 has kicked in just enough with him where he's shooting at him. Crosshair is the reason why Kanan has all his fears and his angers towards the clones against Rex coming, and all clones up until we get to Rebels, and he resolves it with Captain Rex. Spoiler alert. When we get to Rebels, all that happens, we see, comes from this point in time and happening right here in Bad Batch. It has far-reaching implications. So I just love this whole first sequence. I love the opening with the Clone Wars. I love how it starts off as Clone Wars, becomes Bad Batch, and yet they're also echoing forward to Rebels at the same time. This shows you that Dave Filoni recognizes, and it's a love letter to Clone Wars fans as well as Rebels fans, because this series is a bridge anyway. At least it takes place in between Clone Wars and Rebels, is Bad Batch. So he's acknowledging all of that. We're seeing the transition, and now are we going to continue to see the transition? Will this series go all the way to Rebels? Yeah, I don't know. It may or may not. I don't know. There's about 10 years worth of material, or 10 to 15 years that take place between the end of Clone Wars and Rebels. So, but still, he's acknowledging that, and he's letting the fans know that, and let them see that that this is a connecting piece. So that's one of the reasons I really love this first episode, especially. And we'll get more into that later when we get into grades. Yeah, so just a lot of cool stuff there. So we switched to returning to Kamino, and right away changes were made. Right, they asked for Imperial protocols for landing, a landing code. It's like they're all like, what? They don't know who we are? They forgot? What's going on? It's like, why are they asking for this? They end up giving it to them anyway. Out of product, they have it, but it's like it's never been needed before. And when they land, instead of just seeing clones and Caminos out there, they actually see the clone guards for the regiment that guards was the Chancellor, now the Emperor. His guards, they're the ones with the red on, and they're around there doing they're almost become like clone military police. Like they're there to keep everything in order and to make sure that everything the Emperor wants done is done and done correctly there, right? And his order is through them, as it were. So things have really changed already. And then if that doesn't do it, nothing else, then you see the Jedi, the dead Jedi, which all you can make out is it's a female Jedi. From the coloring on her hands, pops obviously some sort of an alien humanoid alien Jedi. And you see her lightsaber roll out. I've yet to see anybody come around and actually say who that female Jedi was. Did you have any ideas? Did you think of anything?
No, because I did not pay attention to the hand.
Okay, so some people said Shakti, but Shakti actually dies protecting the Emperor, or the soon-to-be Emperor at the time, the Chancellor. So it wasn't her, but it was definitely another Jedi of some kind. Not sure who yet. So if you got any ideas, let me know. Put it in the comments, or send us email formidwestguys@gmail.com, or drop us a line at formidwestguys.com, or on the voicemail line, which I'll give to you later. But let us know. I'd like to know if you guys have come up with an answer. I would like to, if anybody's figured that one out yet. And then so then you get, and then we switch to Tarkin. He arrives on Kamino, and he's now Admiral Tarkin. This isn't Captain Tarkin from the Clone Wars. He's now ascended to Admiral. Remember, he becomes Grand Moff at some point once we get to New Hope, right? So But this to me is a very overconfident Tarkin. This is a Tarkin who's found favor with the Emperor, who has rank with the Emperor. The Emperor's given him a high rank, and it's given him real power, and he's really using it, as far as I'm concerned. And this is the Tarkin. This isn't the Tarkin we saw in the Clone Wars, where he's throwing out little comments, but he's keeping most to himself. This is the Tarkin. This is more the Tarkin we see in A New Hope, a very overconfident Tarkin, a very strong Tarkin, a very evil Tarkin. I'll be honest. He's there to investigate the clones. He's there to evaluate the clones. He gets in an argument with the Prime Minister of Kamino, and he's like, well, we're guaranteed clone contracts for so many more years. He's like, oh, no, sir. Your contract was with the Republic, not the Empire. The Republic no longer exists. I'm here to see if your clones are all they said they are, if they're going to serve the Empire or not. The conscripts could be used just as much, half price, just as cheaply, and be just as effective. And that's what he's there to do. He's firing back already. And you can already see where he's going, but you can see that this is the cool, calculated
Apparently
Tarkin.
he's successful, so...
What's that?
Apparently he's successful, though.
Well, yeah, because eventually the clones go away at some point, which we'll see, I'm sure, somewhere in the series. But you can see, though, I love that, it's this Tarkin. It's like, he's like, no, that was with the Republic. We're the Empire. The Republic no longer exists, so therefore you have no contract. And I'm here to reevaluate to see whether this arrangement should even exist. And, it's that same kind of tone from, from A New Hope, when, like, with Princess Leia, and he's interrogating. He's about to blow up Alderaan, and he looks at her and goes, "You have another target? A military target?" That's that kind of, maybe not that strong, but it's that same tone. Like it's that evilness of Tarkin that a lot of people have come to love over the years. But it's definitely that thing. But yeah, so we'll see where that goes. But it's definitely the Tarkin that we remember, right? And then we go on to the Emperor's Assembly, and it's the same audio. It's a big giant hologram of his big speech to the Galactic Senate, which will eventually become the Imperial Senate in about 2 seconds, when he goes, for a safe, this will become the first galactic empire for a safe and secure society. And that whole speech, it's the same audio from the movie, from Revenge of the Sith, and you even see his Sith eyes in the hologram. Really cool kind of animation there. Nice throwback. Did you like the Sith eyes, Gabby?
Well, at first I didn't notice them, but after watching it a couple of times, I was like, oh dang. You can see the eyes. I don't like that.
See the evil that is Sidious. And you see that, and it seems like Order 66 it wasn't just kill the Jedi. It seems like a lot of the clones are pre-programmed now to accept the Empire and to accept its orders, and to be pro-Empire, because everybody's cheering once he makes his announcement. And even Tech points out to him, because this whole time he's starting to say, well, the clones are programmed, right? And back when they were on Calus, he started his whole argument, and he turns to Hunter and goes, "You sure they're not programmed?" He's just looking around because everybody's going nuts at the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire right there. So yeah, it's there's a lot going on there. So we move on to we meet the new character in the series, Omega, the one that's had a lot of conversation already online, I know, and a lot of people making their own theories. I have my own, which I'll talk about here. But she appears to be 7 to 9 years old, I would think. What do you think, Gabby? 7 to 9?
I think.
Or do you think she's a little older?
I think it would be 9 to like 11.
Oh, okay. So maybe she's a little older looking than I was thinking 7 to 9, but you might be right. She is a female. She's female, possibly a clone at this point. Origin's not fully known. Tech is studying her this whole time, by the way, through most of this. Even he goes, clone origins unknown, which is a big key because Tech is he knows everything. He's the guy who's constantly researching, constantly doing things, and through this whole episode, he's doing. You see him doing this with he's got a little like infrared looking device on the side of his face, and he's constantly doing, like, especially during the mess hall scene, he's looking at her. He's scanning her the whole time. He's intrigued. He's trying to get all the detail out of her he can. So that's a big thing to me, that there's more going on than her just being a female clone, a female version clone of the clones. So something else is going on, in my opinion. That's clue number one. And then there's her hair. So this is what got, the first time I saw her hair, the first thing I thought was Palpatine. If you go back to episode 1 and you look at then Senator Palpatine, it's graying, but he has like blonde hair, and it's pushed back just like hers is. His is a little bit more curly, mind you, but it's the same style that they got. That's what they did with Ian McDermott. That was his hairstyle, and I know that it's her little charm thing that she's wearing, the Kaminoan charm, but that's pushing her hair back. But still, it's that same style and that same look that makes you, at least in my, either she has a little bit of Palpatine's DNA in her, or that's a red herring for us to follow, try to throw us off track. Either way, it's something to keep in mind. Just my opinion. What do you think? Do you think the hair is enough or not?
I think that based on the way she is, just her being her, I think that she is a mixed clone of Jango and Palpatine. So
Jango and Palpatine. Okay. Yeah. So you're pretty much agreeing with me then.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. And I think that as the series progresses, I think that's why you see, if you look over here at our graphic, you see the Emperor's at the top. That's the official poster for the show. So to me, that means I think Palpatine's going to be behind the scenes trying to track her down for a reason. But we'll see. That's just a theory right now. We'll see how it goes, hopefully. Let's move on to back to the mess hall fight. One thing I noticed is part of the whole imperialization change. A lot of the clones here are just black and white clones. There's no more blue, other than the MPs that are still wearing the red on. There's no blue, there's no yellow, there's no green, there's no indication of
leaders.
There's no indication of identification or individuality. It's all CT numbers, right? They're all numbers in the system. So you can see that another change of the Imperials already taken over. The way they're acting now, they're not as friendly. But it seems like maybe they've never been friendly to the Bad Batch. But still, that they're much more. They're becoming the bad guys. You're getting like in the Clone Wars, we were rooting for them because they were working with the Jedi, right? And they had these individualities and their own personalities, which the Jedi encouraged. Now with the Jedi gone and Order 66 programming taken over, they're becoming stormtroopers. They're making that leap from the guys that we've come to love to guys we're going to love to hate, or you know what I mean. They're going to become they're becoming the stormtrooper imperial mentality. It's definitely taken over in my opinion. And then the clones are talking about Tarkin coming to evaluate him. They don't name him, but they know that this guy's coming to do an evaluation on all the clones. So there's definitely a lot of talk going on. And then Omega sits down with him, and this is where we find out the Bad Batch aren't really socially accepted by the clones, maybe never have been, because when she sits down with him, nope, Tech says, you actually want to sit with us? Nobody's ever sat with us, not at our table. We're, in as badass as these guys are, apparently they're not that popular with their brothers, maybe because they're always getting into fights. I don't know. I even like how the one clone comes by and includes Omega into it. And, oh, look, they got a new recruit. A new recruit for the Sad Batch. Did you like that? Did you like that little joke or no? I thought that was a nice little... something like an 11th grader would, or a 5th grader would say to another 5th grader, since you're a 5th grader. At the lunch table, a little jab.
I haven't been to the lunch table, Dad.
I know you've been on virtual this year, but, was there ever name calling when you were at the lunch table?
No, No, the lunch ladies wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, okay.
We actually couldn't, like, we didn't choose our seats. We had to sit at select 3 tables for our class.
Oh, okay.
And then,
All right,
you
well.
know, so.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad your school had a firm control on the situation.
Oh, I didn't, because, like, they'd turn off the lights and they'd be like, shut up. Like,
She-
you expect, like, a
Yeah.
full room of children to be quiet. Like, no.
Cool. Chief Palpatine would be proud.
Thank you.
And then they start the food fight starts between Echo or Omega starts it, and then Hunter kind of puts a stop to it, and then of course Wrecker, puts it into full force, and you hear Echo go, "Not again," which of course Echo gets the because he happens to look up as he gets knocked to the floor, and he sees Tarkin up on the upper observation looking down at the mess hall, just observing, and of course he makes note of it because he knows who Tarkin is. He remembers Tarkin from the Citadel, and for those of you who don't remember, back in Clone Wars when Echo disappeared was during the Battle of the Citadel. It was like it was supposed to be a prison for fallen Jedi, and the Separatists had taken control of it, and they had to free Master Peel, who was the other small Jedi in the Order, had an eye patch on, if you remember, little ponytail, cool looking Jedi actually, if you ask me.
He was Sir Banana Peel.
Master Banana Peel.
Yes.
Nice, Gabby, nice.
Thank you.
But yeah, it was that whole episode, and that's where Echo, he goes for the ship, and they have blowing up the ship, and they think Echo's dead. And of course, we find out later he's not. And you go back to the last season 7 of Clone Wars to figure out how he comes back. But yeah, so he recognizes Tarkin because he was on that mission, and he fills in the rest of Clone Force 99. He goes, "This guy has no love for clones," because he's bad mouthing clones even back then. So he knows what's coming. It gives everybody a heads up. Hey, watch out for this guy. And then of course Tarkin they think they're getting reprimanded for their food fight, and it turns out that Tarkin wants them to take a test. So they end up in the live fire range. It becomes that the training room, and they put out the nice little battle, simulated battle scene, which they easily take out. In fact, I would say, I don't know what you thought, Gabby, but I thought Crosshair alone, just being up top, not only does he take out the main guns, but he's picking off the other robots one by one with his training assault rifle. I thought he could almost win the battle by himself. It seemed like it was so easy.
I don't.
No.
Nah.
Okay. Well, to me it was. And then, of course, Tarkin goes, well, let's go to live fire. And, of course, these guys still have their training rifles. They don't have actual live rounds. But he decides to shoot it with live rounds. And what does he bring out? He brings out an early version of the Dark Trooper. And if you've been watching Mando Season 2, at the end of Mando Season 2, the black robot's the one that just beat the crap out of the Mandalorian, out of Din Djarin, and was punching his head into the, like a rock'em sock'em robot. Luckily he had, a helmet on, but they brings these guys, like an early version of them, out, and they're shooting them with live fire rounds. And I just love that fact that it was like an early Dark Trooper, but just continuity wise, that's what I love Dave Filoni for. So Clone Force 99, they had some issues at first, but then Hunter takes the lead and says, let's show them how we improvise. And they end up Tech ends up hacking into the back of one of the other troopers and actually uses one of the Dark Troopers against the other ones to start taking them out. And then there's a really cool last scene where Wrecker throws his knife up, and then Crosshair shoots the knife, which then takes right into the skull of the last Dark Trooper and falls. It was just another little, Special Force A-Team badass moment, because that's what I really think. That's why every time I see Clone Force 99, I think it's Star Wars meets the A-Team, which noticed by my opening. Anyway, so it was a pretty good scene overall. It just shows that they can adapt to it. Take them out of assembly, take away their weapons, because their assault rifles weren't working on the Dark Troopers at all, and they still found a way to win. That's what these guys do and do best, and that's something that Tarkin still questions: is He goes, yeah, those are uncommon tactics, but are they loyal to the Empire? Did they follow Order 66? Well, if it sounds like the Jedi both died. He says, oh, what the contrary. Apparently Crosshair filed another condescending report saying the Padawan got away, meaning Kanan, a.k.a. Caleb Doom. So Tarkin decides to send them on another test. He sends them to Onderon, of all places. And he says there's a batch of separatist resistance group there. Clone Force 99 thinks it's battle droids. There's some sort of battle droid contingents. They get there and they run into women and children and being led by Saw Gerrera. They're just refugees at this point, and they're running away from the Empire. And Hunter sees he's shocked by it. He's like, I don't, again, what's going on? This doesn't make any sense. And basically Saul, he lets them go, and he says, because they actually capture him, or really they let them get captured once Hunter sees it. He goes, says the Clone Wars is over now, but there's a galactic civil war about to start soon. With the Jedi, because the Jedi are out of place. He has complete control of the clone troop army at the moment. It's only a matter of time before he takes over the entire galaxy with absolute control and power. Which, it's basically, he gives them the whole, I think it's something like, the Clone Wars is over. You can either die in the past and adapt and live in the future. That's basically Saul's line to him, and Saul takes off. And then later, of course, Hunter feels and recognizes an Imperial probe droid's been following them the whole time, and Tarkin's been taking notes the entire time. So, yeah. What do you think about the whole Onderon trip, Gabby, and finding out that, Tarkin had set them up to take out real people?
Well, I didn't think it was droids, but I didn't think it would be, I thought it would be like...
Rebel fighters or something?
No, like rogue separatists. Like that...
Oh,
didn't
like
die with the separatists.
Okay, like a general or something, maybe some battle.
Yeah, also you haven't used any of the cameras.
What's that?
The cameras.
Okay.
You do know that, right?
Yeah, okay. You mean change the cameras? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. I understand.
Spice it up.
All right, we'll spice it up. There you go.
Hey.
For camera 2. Yay! Hi, guys.
It's that camera, right? Yeah, it's that camera.
Yeah, it's that camera. And I lost my place in my notes now, Gabby. Daggone. See? You screwed me up. Yeah, love you too. Love you too. So anyway, we get and then they switch over to they start talking about Omega before they leave the planet, and Tech reveals that he's been studying her DNA, so all that studying, and reveals that she's a modified clone like them. Now, granted, he's not saying that that they're exactly like her, she's exactly like them. She just says that he's modified, that she's when they're talking to Tarkin, the Kaminoans, Lamasu, and the Prime Minister said there were 5 total, or 5 that are all that are left of these modified clones. And then he went into the whole, well, they're thinking it's Echo, but Tarkin's thinking it's Echo, but Echo's not like that. Echo was cyberly enhanced, through what happened to him on the minor planet. Skako Minor, thank you. And what happened to him there. So he's not really a modified clone. He's a regular clone. He just didn't respond because of all the other crazy stuff that's happened to him. He's more machine now than man. And because of that, he's immune, and he went through the whole explanation. So Hunter, hearing this, realizes, because she even warned him before he left, don't leave me here, take me with you. Then he feels guilty because really she's one of them. So he feels even more compelled to go get her. So they go back to Camino just to rescue her. Of course, when they land, they're confronted by Tarkin, who told them that they committed treason for not fulfilling their mission and not taking out the refugees. Or the insurgents, which turned out to be refugees. Of course, Hunter's taken back by that. He goes, treason? Are you kidding me? Just for that? These guys were refugees. Why are you doing this? And he sends him to the brig for now, and of course, conveniently, Omega's been arrested as well, so they're reunited. Careful, Gabby, that really can cause a lot of audio problems.
It can?
Yes, it can.
Oh.
All right, so Tarkin does take note, however, through the probe droid and through all this, that he notices that Crosshair in his report, I guess, he put 2 to 2 together and noticed that Crosshair, out of all of them, seems to has been loyal to the Empire. Like he followed Order 66. He's been constantly, going against, challenging Hunter for leadership, even because he's not following orders. Good soldiers follow orders. In the past, he's never had a problem with it, but since Order 66 programming has kicked in, he's all about good soldiers follow orders. At least that part of the chip is working. And here's another key point: Omega, before they take him away, because Tarkin wants his chip enhanced, his brainwashing, if you will. Even you can see that Crosshair's in the brig, and he's kind of like hitting his head, and you can tell he knows he's trying to fight the programming. And Omega actually sits down next to him, and this is kind of key. She goes, "I know it's not your fault. I know what you're going to do. I'm just asking you, please don't do it." So it's almost, you could almost say that maybe it's because of her knowledge of the chip, because she does know about the chip and how it works. That could be why she says what she says, and she can tell what's going on. Or does she have some sort of Jedi premonition, right, of what's going on? Either that, or she's from the future and already knows what's going to happen, which I don't think is going on. I don't think that's happening at all. But she could be sensing the future if she has Force enhanced abilities. What do you think? Do you think it's just her knowledge of the chip, or do you think think she has a little bit of force ability here?
I think it's just the chip, because she does know. Okay, she does notice that. Not notice, but she does say that about the chip on J19.
She does say yes. When we get to the next episode, that'll be episode 2. So.
Yeah, so I'm referencing from episode 2. So.
Okay. All right, so you think it's the chip. That makes sense. And of course, Tarkin takes him away, and he gets zapped, and you see a little bar go up on the graphic, so they actually increase his inhibitor chip. So they're trying to make him even more evil. After, so they break out of the Bad Batch ends up breaking out with Omega's help. They get out of the brig, and that leads to a big showdown in the hangar where their equipment is and their ship is, and who's there to meet them but a new Crosshair in all black armament and a black visor, or not black visor, but a green visor. Green tinted. So, which to me looks a lot like a Death Trooper. So is Crosshair the prototype for Dark Troopers? Is he the first Dark Trooper? Does he end up leading Dark Troopers? Training Dark Troopers? I don't know.
He definitely has something to do with Dark Troopers, though.
What's that?
He definitely has something to do with the Dark Troopers, though.
Or Death Troopers, not Dark Troopers. We're getting confused with the robots. The Death Troopers. Correction, Death Troopers. So he could be the one that ends up training. Maybe he's the one that starts the whole division up. I don't know. Yeah, the elite training. We'll have to see where it goes. But it was definitely very reminiscent of Death Troopers, though. And then, of course, the other thing, there's a big fight, and he's taking him down with his sharpshooting mostly. Wrecker gets taken out again. So this is the second time in the same episode he's shot, and that's how they take him down out of a critical fight or out of a scene. That's great, but I don't want to see Wrecker just constantly become a pincushion going forward. So that's kind of a problem I have. So writers, be a little bit more creative on how to take him out, other than just having him get shot all the time, please. Then, of course, Omega shows off some very impressive sharp shooting skills of her own. She says she's never picked up a blaster before. Later, again, is this another Jedi trait, or is it just enhanced clone programming? Does she have all their powers? Is she actually super strong?
I think it's a bit of both.
A little bit of both?
Yeah.
Okay. That could be interesting. So maybe she has all their skills. Could be. Wait,
what?
Maybe she has all their skills. Maybe she has super strength. Maybe she has hunter's sensing abilities. Maybe she has, crosshair shooting.
I was thinking that maybe it's a bit of like her being enhanced with a little bit of force.
And some force sensitive powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be too. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye as we go forward on that one, for sure. All right. So, and then the other big thing that came out of this is Lamasu helping keep the bay doors open for their escape, which then leads to the next scene of her and the Prime Minister. And basically the Prime Minister is just letting her know, don't say anything to the Empire about them escaping. Don't say anything about Omega being with them. We're going to hold back that information until we figure out what the Empire's true intentions are towards us. So the Prime Minister is actually playing it smart here until he understands what Tarkin's intentions are, what the Emperor's intentions are for them, and how they're going to go forward in the Empire. Because he wants to make sure they're not going to be wiped out. He wants to have a few aces left in the hole, so to speak. So I think that's why he's playing it very calm, and we're just going to be as reserved, and we're only going to give out as information that we're asked for. Essentially, we're not going to be volunteering much, which is when you're unsure of who you're dealing with, that's kind of it's a good political move. So maybe not with Emperor Palpatine, but politically speaking, it's a good move. So yeah, they're going to find out whether they're going to go get more orders for clones or not. Now, obviously, from what we've been told, that doesn't happen. And then we end up with conscripts, volunteers that become stormtroopers and not clones going forward. But we'll see what happens going forward. And I also think it's worth pointing out here that we're seeing Tarkin at the height, or at least the current height of his power. We know he rises even further in power as he becomes head of the Death Star and becomes a Grand Moff, which he's the only one ever. Even in the backstory behind that, the Emperor actually creates the title for him. He gets to create his own uniform for the whole 9 yards. So the Emperor's constantly feeding Tarkin's ego. With this stuff. So, which just because Tarkin is the Emperor, and when you think about Episode 4, he is the Emperor. Like, he's acting in place of the Emperor in Episode 4. So, in order to get Tarkin to that point, the thing about Palpatine is not only is he an incredibly powerful Sith Lord, but he's also a brilliant political tactician. He knows how to manipulate people and deceive people and push people and give people what they want in order to get them to do what he wants them to do. And that's exactly what he does with Tarkin the whole time. And then, so I think it's worth pointing out that right now, I think Tarkin and the Empire are very overconfident in their belief that they can do what they want because they think they're the only power left in the galaxy. And that could come back to bite them. It definitely comes back to bite them later. It could come back to bite them here, especially with the Bad Batch. I don't know. We'll see. And then the whole premiere episode ends with Omega's eyes seeing hyperspace for the first time. It's that's that constant state of wonder and curiosity, right? That kids have, and it's magnified because it seems like she's never been off Kamino before, so everything is new to her. So overall, for this particular episode, I will read you what Brian gave it because he watched the premiere episode. He couldn't be with us, but he did give his review. So his grade is, I'm giving it a B-. It felt drawn out and didn't show us anything we didn't really see before. I felt the training/testing scenes were something we'd already seen if it was a different mission. Like the Kanan tie-in, but it wasn't enough. Hopefully next week we see some new vehicles and ships. As you know, Brian is very big on lightsabers and ships in Star Wars, and yeah, there wasn't a whole lot going on in that department. I'm actually going to give it a B+ to an A-. Had issues with Echo and where his role's going, and I had an issue with using shot twice, so I lowered it to. I'm gonna go ahead with A minus because I would have given it an A. Otherwise, I lowered it a little bit. But yeah, it had I thought it set everything up really well. I thought especially the opening sequence, the Clone Wars, the Rebels tie-in, the bridge with the Bad Batch in between, being the bridge between the two kind of thing feel. And that Filoni was trying to get across to us, setting up Omega, setting up the Bad Batch on the run, setting up the one character that used to be the Bad Batch. Bad Batch will now probably be hunting the Bad Batch, setting up the bad guy, for the series, the antagonist, if you will. So it's going to be. It had everything it needed to be and so much more. So I'm giving it an A minus. Brian gave it a B minus. Gabby, what's your grade?
Well, I'd give it. I'd say a B.
Okay.
I agree with both of you and Brian.
Okay.
I just realized that was a very confusing sentence, but it's fine. But I feel like it was a good episode, but for me it was really long.
Yeah.
And I fidget a lot, so I don't sit still, which sucked in state testing today, but
Okay.
So, my only problem with it is that it's like really long. There's also like it just jumps like right into it, like there's no like entry, like it just
Yeah, it does jump into it, but I like that, but I understand where you're coming from. You prefer to kind of build into the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
Like I want to know like why, like I want to know like how the Bad Batch got
how they became the Bad Batch?
No, how they went to the, like, why were they chosen instead of a different squadron to go to the planet?
Well, they were there to back up, to back everybody else up, because they can do what one whole squadron can do by themselves. That makes sense.
Still, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it would still be nice if like they put that there, but
All right. So let's keep moving. So we're going to move on now to the Bad Batch Episode 2 Cut and Run, which just came out last Friday. Right off the bat, we picked up where we left off, Omega's curiosity. We look that she's fallen asleep in the back of the ship, and then she's torn the ship completely apart. She's curious about everything. She wants to know about everything, understand everything. She is incredibly curious. She's been on Camino her whole life, and this is all brand new to her. She needs to understand what's going on and how all this is gonna, how everything works in the galaxy. New kid, new eyes on the world, right? Kind of thing. Kind of, you have a new eyes for everything right now, pretty much, Gabby. You're still learning the world and how it works, and you know what that's like to be curious, right? That kid's over curious about everything, the what and the why. We went through that with you, the what and the why stage. You still ask me a lot of questions about a lot of things, so it's learning.
I haven't
right?
been outside. I usually in my room with the lights off, just sitting there playing games on my phone. So there's Google for questions now, though. So
okay, so you have Google. In the Star Wars world, there is no Google.
Yeah,
and don't worry, we will be getting out more now that hopefully the pandemic is coming to an end. So, and we do some things, Gabby. You don't sit in your room all the time.
Okay,
Not
but
with
over
me.
at Mother's I do.
Okay, well, it's your mom's maybe, but not with me.
I come out of my room to get food, and that's it.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to hear that, but we'll talk about that off air. Okay.
Okay.
So again, she's just curious about everything. Even when they get down to the planet, and she's rubbing her eyes, she's looking at the sunlight, and then she's dirt. I mean, she comes from a water world, right? And she's never seen dirt before. She'd even ask, "What is this?" And I say, "Well, it's dirt." And she's like, "This is fun. This is great." No, so a kid that's never seen dirt or played in dirt before, or has the fresh air of a new planet, right? and everything she sees is just new to her, and she's just overtaken and overwhelmed by it. And that just kind of shows, that the character she's going to be. She's constantly going to be, especially at her age, not seeing these things as younger. She's going to want to make up for that, right? I mean, put yourself in her situation. What would you be like? Would you be the same way?
So if I grew up on a planet that was entirely made of water, no land, inside of a building my entire life, well, how I would react to dirt is, the heck is this?
And that's exactly what she did, right?
Yeah, but she didn't say this. I'd be like, it's dirty. What is this? Like,
you would think it would be great.
I do not like it.
Okay.
I don't like nature.
Yeah, you're a glamper, that's for sure.
Very.
But again, everything's new to her. And then we switch to them finding their friend that they talked about in the last episode, which ends up being Cut, which is our clone deserter from the Clone Wars. He ended up getting marooned on J19/Seleucami, and he settled down with Sue, and they had 2 kids. He also helped Rex in the Clone Wars recover from his wounds, and they fought off a group of rogue battle droids together. Rex then actually decided not to turn him in because of all their comradeship, because he's a deserter, technically. And we find out, speaking of Rex, we find out he was just there yesterday, so the clone Bad Batch, we just missed him. So we're getting closer to him, and he may even show up as early as next episode, maybe, hopefully. And that Rex told him about Order 66. And here, this brings up one question. This brings up a plot point. So Cut is a clone. Cut is a deserter. Cut has an inhibitor chip. When he heard Order 66, wouldn't that activate him, or does it have to be Palpatine's voice that activates him? That brings up a question in the whole Order 66 thing.
Well, I mean, for the Crosshair, it just had to be said.
Yeah.
Not, by specifically Palpatine's voice. So.
Well, I'm thinking if they hear it from anybody else but Palpatine's voice, I think they're fine. But if they hear it come across on Palpatine's voice, then they make the change. If we go back to last episode,
Then what happened to Crosshair?
I think Crosshair heard it on the comm channel, and that's when he made the switch. I'm thinking maybe he changed by hearing it by somebody else saying it. But if that is the case, and it's anytime they hear Order 66, period, you would think that would kick in their programming. I don't know. It could be a plot hole that they overlooked, or there could be an explanation for it coming down the road. Then this is also where Hunter learns about the chip itself. There's an actual chip. He just thought it was like overall brainwashing or something. And this also, and Tech goes, well, how did you think it worked? So this shows you Tech's mentality. Tech does a lot of assumption. He has a lot of knowledge, but he assumes that everybody thinks like he does, and that they just make, that they realize that well, duh, of course that's how it works. It has to work that way. You know what I mean? So you have a lot of that going on. So you have to just wonder, about this whole order, or this whole chip thing. And he's been wondering. He's been thinking it's just brainwashing, but no, it's an actual chip. So this also leads into Tech. How much more is Tech assuming that people know about? Maybe he actually knows more about Omega and her abilities and where she comes from, and he's not letting everybody else know because he's assuming everybody's thinking like him. So this is another point that shows that there might be a little bit more about Omega going on here, guys, than we think.
Yeah, I think he does know, because he's been studying her for over 3 days.
I would say we're probably up to 2 or 3 days now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he'd know. Like he I think he would just.
Again, he thinks everybody just knows it.
Yeah.
Omega. Speaking of Omega, she learns how to play catch for the first time, and she's never really had fun before. Which is, that's just another layer.
Kind of sad.
Very sad, right? Can you imagine not learning how to play till you're 9 or 11? How that works. she's kind of had, and really when you think about it, when you see her in Camino, she kind of makes up her own fun, right? Sneaking into the Bad Batch headquarters or barracks and stuff like that,
Yeah.
She's kind of making up her own fun and her own curiosity. So yeah, just kind of sad to see. You're right, it is sad. And then Cut brings up a good point about Omega. He goes to Hunter and goes, the Kaminoans, they don't create a clone without a purpose for that clone. So what's the deal with her? What's her purpose? Of course, Hunter has no idea. And Hunter fires back, I don't really care. She's just a kid at this point. So again, they're leaving you clues that there's more to her than meets the eye, that she's been secluded and that she has been kept back from being a normal child for a reason. That there's more to her. There's a greater purpose for her than we just don't know it yet. These are all clues that they're hunting. They're coming down to something. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. I think next. So something to keep in the back of our minds again as we're going forward. With the whole Omega mystery. And then Cut also reveals that they're going to leave Seleucami/J19 because of all the clones coming into the planet. He could be discovered as a deserter, and he's actually offered a ride by Hunter, and he goes, "No, I need to. You guys are wanted men. If I go with you, it's too big of a risk. I can't do it because of the kids. I'm doing it for the children." And this is kind of the theme of the underlying theme of this show. It's for the kids, right? What's best for the kids, right? Or kid in this case. We'll get to that. And then we find out once they get to town that there is something that the Empire is now doing. They've introduced the chain code, that should set off all kinds of alarm bells and whistles if you've been watching Mandalorian. The whole how they track people is with their trackers as a chain code. We're wondering where it came from. How long has it been around? Well, of course, it came from the Empire. Of course it did. Why? Because the Empire can use it to track people, keep track and trace on everybody, and create this huge database on people in order to keep their tight control on people, and be keep control on the galaxy with it. It's going to be their weapon against the common citizen to know who they are, and where they're going at all times. Right? Totalitarianism on a galactic scale because of the chain code, and they even go for peace and prosperity. And when you get your chain code, you'll be able to get Imperial credits for free out of the prosperity and the kindness of the Empire. Of course, they want them on their credit system. They want them to use their monetary system because they want them to be dependent on them for their currency and not the old Republic, credits, right? So a whole new monetary system being put in place. Again, command and control, right? So, this is what I love about Dave, where he's revealing more about the small details they didn't explain in Mandalorian. They're being explained here in Bad Batch. You find out, okay, where's this chain code come from? Here's where it comes from. Here's its beginning right here. This is how the Empire is going to try to keep control of the galaxy. So is with the chain code. And they also say you can't do any transactions. Like they were trying to buy, I think, food, and they said now you need a chain code for that too, I think. So again, there's a dark control, right? Like really deep dark. This is trying to present something that's very evil in a very good way, right? It's definitely a wolf in sheep's clothing kind of thing. And they're and even Tech says it's brilliant. They can build a database with this. They can track people with this. They explain all of it, right? And we see all this go down. What do you think about the whole chain codes? We finally get the origin of the chain code, and we see just how devious the Empire is, and you can see them like a snake slithering it into society, and they're reinforcing it with clone troopers to make sure that they've locked down the ports. The ships get a code. The people get their own chain code. What do you think?
I could definitely I already saw this coming, honestly.
Yeah, speak into the mic a little bit.
I kind of already saw this coming, honestly.
Okay.
Because it's the Empire. What did you expect?
Yeah. That's a good point. But again, we actually see a little bit of it. Then we switch back to the farmhouse, and we see that Omega's going to get into a little bit of trouble here. So she's still playing ball, and she kicks the ball. The ball goes past the fence, and the kids are like, we'll get it later. And next thing you know, she's off over the fence, and what comes at her but that mouse-looking tiger called a Nexu, which we last saw in episode 2 on Geonosis, the big arena battle. It was one of the monsters that came out. It was a tiger-looking thing with like a mouse tail, and it's the one that put a big 3-claw scratch on the back of Padme. It's that same creature. So another little tie-in from Filoni there, which again I love. And it's a good scene. This is, Hunter fights it off with his knife a little bit, and then she's shooting it from the top and scares it off. And it's that whole thing when you're a kid, when you really screw up and you're just afraid, and she's frightened and she's scared and she doesn't know what to do, and Hunter's just yelling at her, and Cut has to cut in and go, she's a kid. She's not a soldier. You can't treat her like a soldier. But this is all Hunter knows how to do, right? He doesn't know how to be a parent. He only knows how to be a soldier. But Cut, having raised 2 kids so far, he knows. You got to call him. You got to tell him it's going to be okay. Are you hurt? That's all that's important, is you're not hurt, which is the important thing, right? And he hugs her, and she just busts out crying. And that's what kids do when they get in a life and death situation, and they know they really screwed up. That's what happens. But as a parent, that's what you're there for. You're there to hold your kid. You're there to tell you it's okay. Everything's going to be all right. You know better now, blah, blah, blah. Don't do it again. But, you're there to coddle them, to nurture them, and to make sure that they don't do it again, right? So, it's that real big parenting scene, and it's another light bulb goes off in Hunter's, that he's a parent now. That maybe he's not the best thing for Omega going forward. And that it's kind of that underlying theme of the whole episode. It's the whole, I'm not really cut out for this. You guys, Cut and Sue, you seem to be much better at it. I want her to go with you. And he tells her as much. Of course, it all comes down to the big scene at the end. There's a little bit of back and forth. They get the chain codes. They hack their way in. They're able to get them their little chain code cards. And of course, she decides not to go with Sue or with Cut, and ends up going back with them. And it's this whole scene takes place, which is cool. And there's a lot going on there. But the one thing I wanted to take out of that whole fight scene at the end, though, is in them trying to have to blast their way off the planet as a result in their own ship, is the one thing I noticed is Echo's hacking abilities. So the last time we saw Echo hack anything with his R2-D2 arm, as I like to call it, because he's got the little plug-in device on his arm, right, for an arm. He was hacking his way all through the Separatist computer systems. He could hack into anything. He could cross this with that, and he could do whatever he wanted. Now he has this. Now he's not able to do that. I mean, he couldn't even get the simple magnetic boot off of the ship. He's like, I can't. Even text like, if you take much longer, you're gonna get caught, and he does, because he can't hack it. So I wonder if this is a minor plot point we're going to see go forward. Is this where maybe Echo's hacking techniques are great for old Separatist ships, but when it comes to the Empire, he's going to have to learn to become an R2-D2 and learn how to hack, because he's supposed to be the hacker. Even when you see it on, I borrowed it for my intro off of one of the trailers. He's the hacker, but he's not hacking right now. He's not able to hack. So this could be a something to follow as we go forward, to see how Echo kind of finds his place. So, because right now he seems like the guy out of place in the whole group. He's everybody else knows their role, but he's still trying to learn his role, I think, in the group. So it'll be interesting to see how that works going forward, and see how Echo adapts maybe as we go forward. And then of course we get to the Omega and Hunter scene. They both have a lot to learn. They're stuck with each other. Omega has a lot to learn about life, and Hunter has a lot to learn about being a father/parent. And that's pretty much where the episode ends. I don't know, Gabby, what do you think about the ending? What do you think about the last battle scene, the ending, and how it worked out?
I think personally I feel like it was I don't really know how to explain it, because, like, I don't want to say it was just another fight scene, because it probably was. But then again, it was the specific fight scene.
It was the big fight scene for the end of the show, yeah.
Yeah, that ended the episode, so.
Mm-hmm. All right, what would you give grade-wise? I'll let you go first on this one.
B-.
B-, okay.
So there was... The biggest thing for me was that it went from 1 hour to...
Half
30,
hour.
yeah.
Now watch carefully, you're going to contradict yourself, because you were just like, oh, the other one was too long.
Exactly.
And this one was too
like,
short?
Okay, so, yeah. Like, you can't go from 1 hour to 30 minutes. You see the 40 to 45 minute mark, or the 35 to 45 minute mark. That, you know.
I think it's whatever can tell
Yeah.
the story myself. Being on an online platform where you don't have to fit the 30-minute category every time, or the 22 with commercials and stuff, but I think it's however long you should tell the story.
Okay, so my problem is that I was expecting like a longer, like, to ease into the 30 minutes, not to go straight to the 30 minutes.
Oh, okay. All right, so you wanted more of a transition. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would go a little bit more smoothly.
Okay.
And then it just felt like there was a lot in that episode. So, like, it just felt there was a lot going on in the episode, and it was just too compact for me. Because I take, like, it... Sometimes when people ask me a question, it takes me, like, a couple of seconds to process it, and I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, sorry for the short response, because my brain was processing.
Okay.
So, it took me a while to, like, process everything, so.
Okay. So you're sticking with the B- then?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go B+. I thought, it wasn't hugely action-packed necessarily. I think this is the moment where we kind of catch our breath from everything that happened in the first episode, and we're already seeing the challenges, right, that they're going to have to face. They're going to have to learn to go from being soldiers to parents to civilians, and trying to do that whole transition, and all the trouble that's going to go with having an incredibly curious kid that's been boxed in her whole life now is suddenly out in the wild open free with these guys, while they're trying to be freedom fighters, or at least soldiers of fortune, right? So it's going to be an interesting to see all this evolve, from her helping them fight necessarily, and to her actually learning her worldly lessons, to them again trying to go from being a troop all the time to becoming civilians, and to taking on soldiers of fortune, as a way of making money, and instead of just having a mission and having to get fuel for the ship. I'm sure it will come up at some point, because they've never had to deal with that. Buying food, I'm sure it might even come up at some point, because they've never had to do that. It's always been there. They're soldiers. They go get their supplies, and that's that, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is the beginning of that, and we're going to see all that kind of play out throughout the rest of the episodes. And I also think the action is going to come up. I think whatchamacallit's definitely going to catch up with them. Crosshair is going to catch up with them, especially since they blasted their way out of Seleucami. And the Empire is going to be on their heels. So it's going to be, I think that action is going to pick up. I think all these other storylines, these plot lines, the mystery of Omega is going to continue to evolve. This plot line with Echo, I think they've kind of started in the first two places, him finding his place on the team, and in the structure and everything, and his hacking abilities. I think that's going to play out. So I think it's a good B+. It's a really good episode to follow the premiere episode. It's that, okay, there's not a ton of action, but there's enough to see that this is their first taste of life outside of Republic life, out of being elite commandos, So I will definitely give it a B+. Again, Brian did not get a chance to write anything for this one, so but those are your grades. So B-, B+. So overall, good episode. So I think we can give it a solid B between the two of us. So All right, and that brings us to the end of the end of our episode, the end of episode 1 and episode 2 reviews. Before we go real quick, where can you find For Midwest Guys? The best place, guys, and I gotta be honest with you, it really is the best place. This is over here, is to the side here. This is the formidwestguys.com site. Up here you can see there's individual links that's going on here, and then if you to each individual show, I gotta do a little bit of work. I gotta add this show, and I've got to add a couple other, like Watchers of the MCU I need to add up top, but I will get on that and do that. I gotta update our website too, do some updating. But you can also see that if you scroll down as we release our episodes, they are there in chronological order of what they were released in. So all these things, order which they're released. So it's all there. ForMidwestGuys.com is your best bet. But we are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. Again, that's, Facebook.com/ForMidwestGuys. It's at ForMidwestGuys. We're on Instagram. It's _Midwest_guys there. It's a little different. We're audio-wise, we're on every podcast. So I'm trying to do, every time we do a video podcast, I make sure that there's the audio version available as well, which you can find on the direct link right here on the main page. Underneath, it'll say audio only. You can click there and just get that. If you just want to listen to that one episode, you can subscribe to our podcast. There's links to the actual feeds and stuff that you can get to right here. The RSS feeds here, Android, all this stuff. We're actually listed, our Podbean is our main audio source. We're listed there as well. You can look us up there. Really, you can Google us too, formidwestguys.com. There's good old-fashioned email, formidwestguys@gmail.com. And then the new thing that we got going for the last couple of years now is the fan voicemail line, which is 859-363-5952. If you call that number, you'll get a nice brief voicemail message from me. Just leave your name, name, where you're from, and what show you're talking about. If we really like your question or comment, you'll find yourself we'll play it on the air for sure. So make sure that you reach out to us, though, and there's lots of ways to do it. We have lots of different podcasts. You can see we do MCU as well as Star Wars, as well as other podcasts. So please follow, like, and subscribe, and always check back at formidwestguys.com to see if you're just looking for something new too.
I recommend Spotify.
Yeah, we're on Spotify. We're on iHeartRadio. So look us up and leave us a good review. Just leave us a review, but just make it good. All right, and that helps us out and helps get the word out for our podcast. So please make sure you do that, and make sure that you follow, like, and subscribe. All right, well, Gabby, thanks for joining us on this premiere episode of the Bad Batch Report. And I've been your host, B. Willie, saying, as always, may the Force be with you.
Bye.